Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you. Okay. All right. So for those of y'all who do not know me, my name is John Terry, and the Barbados trip was a very eye-opening experience for not just me, but for this whole team here. And at age 4, my parents could not see me going on a trip like this and me being able to get up in front of this whole audience of people and speak about it possible. Why? Well, I'll tell you why. This may seem a little bit off topic, but it's not. So, and you'll see why in a minute. At age 4, I was diagnosed with a disorder that caused me social awkwardness, anxiety, and, to struggle for a lot of my life. And at first, I feared that that would get in the way of me being able to be a part of administering to others on this trip, right? So Pastor asked us all, what do you want God to do in your lives on this trip? And I said, I want God to not let my social anxiety get in the way of administering to others. And the reason why is because, I love Jesus, I'm a Christian. I was saved when I was 12 years old. And, if you really love Jesus enough to share about what he did for you and love others enough to make a difference in, where they go when they die and all that, you really should not feel awkward doing that. And so, that was not the only thing holding me back at the beginning of the trip. Another thing that was kind of holding me down a little bit, I was kind of complaining about at the beginning of the trip, was I was on the puppet team. Now, most of y'all might be thinking, puppet team, that's no big deal, but no. Everybody on the puppet team, by the end of the day, our arms were in pain. And I was thinking, boy, why did I not join the drama team? So, but then the first day I performed puppets, I kind of went into deeper thinking, and I thought, if Jesus suffered all that pain on the cross for us, and that's what we're here to share about, the pain I feel in my arm while doing puppets, that pain is nothing in comparison, right? Yeah, that's right. You said it, brother. So, yeah, preach it. Amen. So, if he could do that on the cross for us, and he expects us to share that with others, I can do that. So, and then at the very first school that we went to perform puppets and dramas, my first, not the very first school, but the first school with little kids, which I do not have much experience with. So for that reason, my reaction was, I felt kind of awkward because I'm not around little kids that much. I've never babysat, I've never done anything like that before. And so, yeah, you can laugh. And so at first I felt awkward before going behind that public stage around those kids, and I saw some people looking at me like, what are you doing just standing there? Go around, talk to little kids, give them high fives and stuff. And as I was behind there on the puppet stage, my social anxiety was kicking in big time, and I did really well with the puppets, but as I was thinking behind there, I've thought before in my life, if God really wants me to do this, why would he let me have social anxiety? And then I realized that was the devil. Because he obviously would not want us to share the word of what Jesus did with others, and he was using my social anxiety against me. And I immediately thought about that, and then after the puppets were done, one of the teachers got up and started singing, I love you, Jesus, come into my heart. And then right when she started singing, I hate you, Satan, get out of my heart, all the kids started stomping like that. And we all came out from behind the curtain, and everybody started laughing when the kids started stomping. And that moment right there was what cracked me out of my shell. And after that, I was going around, I was high-fiving a bunch of little kids. Everybody was looking at me like, what happened to you? Are you the same person? You were awkward before you went behind the curtain, but now you're all open, going around talking to little kids. And from that moment forward, for the rest of the week, I was not socially awkward. My social anxiety got like smaller and smaller and smaller. I mean, the next day, I was going around with my puppet, high-fiving little kids and pulling the high five, down low, too slow joke. And that night while we were sharing, Pastor was sitting right next to me, and he pulled the joke on me himself. And the whole room busted out laughing. So, and it followed me throughout the rest of the week to the point where on the last day, Janea came up to me and Daniel, right here, and William and Alex, and asked us, would you like to join, hence what I said about wanting to join the drama team instead earlier, would you like to join us on the dance team for this very last performance? And I didn't know it by heart, but I said yes. And so did Daniel, and so did the other two guys. And so we got up and danced, and it was a big, great grand finale for all of us, the whole team, on our very last day of performing. Right after a puppet show, we just got up and danced, and Daniel and I were always, a step behind, but it didn't matter because it was a bunch of little kids and they thought it was hilarious. And that day Satan really tried to use things against me. Not my social anxiety, but even as I was about to get up and perform, like due to the change in diet, we were all having stomach troubles, and I was having really bad stomach troubles that day. And so, but I did not let that get in the way. I gave it my all because I knew that's what God wanted me to do. And so, then after, later that night, before that, I want to say another thing. Satan not only tried to use things against us while we were on the trip, he tried to use a couple things against us before we went on the trip. On the day we performed at the elementary school, I'm not going to say who, but one of our team members got sick. And the very next day, me and my mother, when we were on the way to school, I was already running late, and I was thinking, what could possibly make us any later? And right that very moment, we get into a terrible car crash. And I ended up making it here to the school just on time for the second puppet song, which had my solo in it. So I guess that was good. But, so about the car crash, I thought before this trip, if I have social anxiety and that is possibly going to hold me back, why am I doing this? But then, knowing that me and my mother were okay after the car crash, I thought to myself, that was God saying, not today, Satan. You gotta live a long life, John. Starting with the mission trip, it is your calling to go out and spread the word. And so I went into the trip feeling as if it were my calling to do that. And so then that night after we danced, we were all sharing what God had done in our life this week. And I shared about how I overcame social anxiety to the point where, I could even speak up in small group meetings and not feel awkward doing it, and even stand up here and not feel awkward right now doing this. And one of the ladies who we met on the trip looked at me and said, you don't have to refer to your anxiety as quote unquote my social anxiety anymore. It's completely gone as far as I'm concerned. I've been watching you all week. You've done everything. You've done your calling in the name of the Lord. So, and that was a very emotional moment for me, of course, in a good way. There were a lot of emotional moments on the trip. I mean, the night before we prayed over all the girls, all the chaperones, the male chaperones, because we had guys meetings every night. We're going around praying for all the guys, and when Ox came to me, something he said nearly got me emotional. He said, if I ever had a child, I'd want him to be like John. And so that moment really spoke to me. And then the next night when we prayed over all the girls, I started off a little awkward, like, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do, but then later on, Mr. Jones said that he saw me witness, like, he witnessed me as I grew less and less awkward as we went around the circle praying, and then I nearly got emotional when all the girls started coming up to us, giving us hugs and saying thank you. And I also feel like this trip brought us a lot closer together as friends, like Kaylin said, because on the, I feel like it broke the awkward vibe between me and some people that I don't really talk to that much here at school, especially the girls. But because on the very last night, like all the girls were sitting together, and Jordan was like, "John, come here." She put her arms out, gave me a big hug, and said, "I'm glad you came." And all the girls followed her lead, and so there was a lot of moments that really spoke to me. And overall, this trip was a very eye-opening experience that really, really spoke to me. And I plan to inspire others to do the same. I took a lot of videos while I was on the trip. I plan to make something special out of that and put it out there. And because that's what I want to do with my life one day. I want to work in the film industry, for those of y'all who didn't know. So, I keep saying so a lot. Right?
So,
I highly recommend you, freshmen through juniors, to go on this trip. Or if you're leaving CCA and you ever get an opportunity to go on any mission trip at all, to just take it. And that's my testimony. Love y'all. God bless.